بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والصلاة والسلام على أشرف المرسلين سيدنا محمد وآل محمد. اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. Assalamu alaikum, our dear viewers from locally, internationally, wherever you may be. This is Berak Hussain, the Muslim counselor. I'm a psychotherapist here in Ottawa. And lately we have been doing these great programs through Insta Ahl al-Bayt, as well as putting it on Facebook and YouTube, speaking with different people of different backgrounds, whether spiritual, religious, or mental health related. And we've been talking about different topics related to the pandemic, and inshallah, helping and benefiting, and also entertainment, as we had last night. Alhamdulillah, today we have Sister Fairouz Kermalli joining us from Ottawa. She's not only a good friend, but she's an amazing social worker. MashaAllah, I've been working with her for the last few years through the Serenity Islamic Mental Health Initiative here in Ottawa. And she's a great speaker, great person to listen to, get ideas from, lovely answers. And inshallah, today we're going to be talking about lockdown with the kids during the pandemic. And the sister is going to give a few words about what she does. I just gave my personal view of her, and she's going to tell us a little bit more about her background, inshallah.
Well, I want her to start by reflecting that personal view right back at you. MashaAllah, I think we can all attest that Sister Berak has this amazing energy, and she's out there and she's networking and she's bringing us collaborations with all kinds of people. And it is just amazing to watch you do what you do, Berak. So thank you. And may Allah just give you more and more energy to do it.
Bless you. Bless you. Thank you so much.
Course. Alhamdulillah, I have my master's in social work. My undergraduate degree is in psychology with a minor in aging studies. And during graduate school, I also completed a certificate in addictions. I've worked as a family and child therapist in rural Ontario. And currently I work as a school social worker. I work with high school students and I work with elementary students and their families, working to support their mental health, but also access to basic needs as well. So inshallah, we're here to help you in whatever way we can.
Inshallah. Thank you so much for that introduction. So you've hit upon a few things: school board, working privately as well as a therapist.
Community, it was community mental health, yeah.
Community mental health, mashallah. So today, inshallah, we're going to begin, we're going to be doing things a little bit differently today. We're going to actually have some strategies that we're gonna, or the sister is going to show us what to do with ourselves as parents, but also with our children, inshallah. So we're going to begin, before we begin the actual questions, we're going to begin with a stress reduction activity that a lot of people have been asking. Can you please show us some strategies on self, or rather reducing stress? So sister, go ahead.
And what I love about this question was that the question wanted something for the kids, but also for the parent too. And I love that they pointed that out, because when we're in a good place, when we're feeling regulated, our kids feel that and they pick up off of that. So if we can role model this, if we can practice this with them, that would be amazing. So first thing the first technique I'm going to show you is something called cookie breathing. So I want you to hold your hands out like this, and I'm going to ask you to do it so that I'm not just standing here looking like a crazy person all by myself. So Berak, you too. Yeah. Hold your hands up here.
I'm trying to make sure we're tech everywhere okay.
Okay. So while she's making sure we're tech okay, I want you to imagine that I have just baked your favorite cookie. Most people are going to say it's a chocolate chip cookie. So I want you to imagine that they're fresh from the oven and I've put one in the palm of your hands. And you're going to go through this with your kids too. You're going to say, hey, what's your favorite cookie? And when they say chocolate chip cookie, you're going to say, imagine that I'm like the best parent ever and I just made you some cookies and we just got it off the tray. I've put it in your palm and it's too hot to eat right now. But even though it's too hot, we can still enjoy the cookie by smelling it. So let's go ahead and let's take a smell of that cookie. Berak, ready? Take a smell.
Okay.
And you're still gonna hold that smell inside your head, and now you're gonna blow out to cool the cookie down. Again, let's do it again because it's still not cool down, okay?
Okay.
Breathe in and blow out. And then you're gonna do it with your kids one more time. Breathe in and blow out. And this is great because it's actually teaching them how to do a proper deep breath where you're breathing in through your nose, not through your mouth.
Right.
And it's teaching them how to blow out the correct way by blowing slowly and blowing cool air out. So I love that because it's teaching deep breathing the right way. You can strengthen this by actually surprising your kid later and saying, hey, now that we're thinking about cookies, how about we go bake some cookies and let's make this real. Fantastic. You know, take it wherever you want to take it after that.
So that's a great strategy. That's something that we do in session with clients, talking about deep breathing and then releasing the breath, but doing it in a way that's very slow through the nose, getting it down to the lungs, expanding the lungs, and then and then releasing it out. So that's amazing. Yeah, good stuff. So this is something we can do anytime with our children. So start off with the first question we have here: how to show compassion for others while social physical distancing. I don't like the word social distancing. I find that it's something that pushes people away from each other, which is the opposite of what we want to create, right? Rather, physical distancing is creating that physical distance amongst each other while still maintaining social contact. So compassion, I believe, starts with ourselves, being kind to ourselves. And this is something that we can teach our young ones as well, in terms of showing compassion to themselves and learning how to show that to other people. So this can be done. I know we've spoken about putting everything online and being virtual, but also we can show that compassion and kindness to others by even talking to our neighbors without keeping the physical distance, but not the social distance. I know with my neighbors, when we step outside, my daughter and I go for a walk, if we see them, we'll have a chat with them from far. And that helps us maintain that relations and connection, which is something that we vitally need during this time, is to stay connected with friends and families, right? And maintaining those relationships. Or perhaps cooking and sending something over, a treat that we enjoyed baking and spending time together doing, and getting our child involved. But being able to do that and sharing that love with other people, I think, is a good way of starting to show that compassion with our little ones. What are your thoughts on that? We do have a tech issue, so while you're chatting, I'm just trying to figure that out.
Sure. I totally agree. I think we continue those relationships in whatever way we can, if they're face to face. I think sometimes even just planning something tangible, maybe you grab some envelopes and some paper and you're writing letters to people who you guys love. You're going to put them in the mail. So that's just going to send some happiness to somebody else. I know what we're doing is we try to germinate some seeds from different kinds of fruits and veggies that we eat. And alhamdulillah, they germinated, we're planting them. And as we water them, we're talking about who we're going to be giving the seedlings to so that they can plant them in their garden. So even just talking about it, planning ahead, I think those are all great ways to model compassion for others. But like Sister Berak said, you want to model compassion for yourself too, in the way you're talking about, your mindset and how you're doing during this time. Model that compassion. Say, you know what, we didn't get everything done that we wanted to, but that's okay. We did our best today, and we're not the only ones. We have so many friends and family who are in this with us.
That's a really good point. Especially when you feel like you have so much to do that you need to get done right now. Yeah. Being able to say, you know what, that's all right. I didn't get all of it done right now. That's okay. There's always tomorrow, inshallah, to do it. And focusing on the quality of what you are doing right now, rather than trying to get everything done, whether it's the laundry, whether it's the cooking, whether it's the cleaning of the house, whether it's the activities and the crafts that you have to finish. You know what, pick something that you can do together with the children, the family, that has quality, over trying to finish everything at once. That can cause a lot of stress. And by illustrating that, like you said, saying it's okay, you know what, we can get this done right now, we can finish this later. This is exemplifying, I think, compassion and being respectful of our boundaries, really. Yeah. Thank you so much for sharing that. Here's another question. How to remind teenagers the value and importance of compassion during this time and its value as a lifelong skill? So while you're answering that, I still have to figure out something here for YouTube. I don't think it's working. So you go ahead, sister.
Okay. Alhamdulillah, you know what? A lot of the teenagers that I work with are actually already some of the most compassionate people. They carry around so many worries and so many thoughts about people who they love. You'd be surprised how many of them care about their grandparents and their moms and their dads. At the same time, though, their behavior doesn't always show that, does it? And I talk to a lot of parents of teenagers, and they're like, you know what? It's really hard to believe that that's how my teenager thinks of me or views me. It's hard to imagine that they want to be spending time right with me right now, because all their body language is telling me that they don't really want anything to do with me. And that's where I think it goes back to relationship and trying to approach them in a way that just tells them that you're open and you're there for them. Sometimes we come at our kids with a lot of negative beliefs about why they're behaving the way that they behave, especially with our teenagers. I find that that happens a lot. Like, she's just being a drama queen. They're manipulating me. They don't really care. You know, we really need to take a look at our mindset about our kids before we even approach them, because all that is going to influence how we're approaching them. Right. And then when we approach them, we want to start with open questions, saying, you know what, this is a crazy time. We're all out of our comfort zone right now. How are you doing? How's it going? You know, hear what they have to say. Who have you been talking to? How are your friends dealing with this? How are you dealing with this? Do you know who you can talk to if you want to talk to about this? If they don't want to talk to you, and they might not want to, do you have resources you can provide to them? You know, you can give them the Nasiha crisis line, right? There's so many resources you can share with your teenagers right now. And in terms of compassion, I'm going to go back to role modeling, right? So, you know, at dinner time, you know, you guys can create a family tradition where, you know, you might talk about, each of you might say one thing you're grateful for on that particular day. And then after you do a gratitude, you can do a hope. So what's one hope you have for yourself? What's one hope you have for somebody else? Put it out there, and you model it first. You go first. If you invite them to participate and they decline, which they might, that's okay. Just say, you know what, maybe tomorrow we'll try writing them down, putting them in a jar. I really believe we have to put this into some of our family ritual and create tradition out of this kind of thing, and really be modeling it ourselves.
Beautiful. Makes so much sense. Again, by modeling ourselves, our children look at what we're doing, and hopefully, even if they're teenagers, hopefully copy the good behavior, right? Yeah. Positive behavior. Yeah. So another question we have is, how can we teach them to effectively express their emotions? This can be a challenging one, especially when you're at the age of, I don't feel like doing anything. I'm not interested in participating. I don't care, whatever. Oh, you know, I think we've all done that as teenagers in some way or another, even as Muslims, where it says, وَلَا تَقُلْ لَهُمْ أُفًّا. We still have done that at some point or another, right? And even that uffan is a form of expressing emotion that we want to explore, right? I find by first validating and normalizing that, you know what, it's okay to be afraid right now. It's normal that we're afraid of something new and different, especially if we don't know what's going to happen. It's okay to be angry. So validating and normalizing emotions rather than telling our children, whether they're male or female, do not cry. You're a boy, you're a man, toughen up, that kind of attitude, right? So showing emotion ourselves too, but healthy emotions, healthy ways of showing that. Of course, we don't want to be showing lots of anger and explosive anger in front of our children, but to talk about, like, especially if we make a mistake, and expressing anger, and to recognizing that and showing our children that, you know what, I made a mistake, I'm sorry, owning up to things. And that, by modeling it right there, is showing our children that we make mistakes, although they look at us as perfect human beings and we are their world. And that's the worldview of children when they look up to their parents. And so it's hard for them to see us make mistakes, but we're also humans and we do make these errors and mistakes. And you want to show to them that it's okay to make mistakes. It's okay to have sad feelings. It's okay to be angry and frustrated with something. And having, I think, that open talk teaches our children. I find that I do that a lot with my daughter, where we talk about emotions, where I see her if she's sad or happy or frustrated. And I notice now I don't even need to ask her. She comes to me directly with her emotions, alhamdulillah, by showing that whether you make mistakes or expressing that it is okay to feel certain things, you're allowed, giving them permission basically to show their emotions, but also teaching them how to regulate it. So I'd like to hear more about from your experiences with children, because I work with an older population. So
Yeah.
I work with early young adults. So the youngest I worked with is, let's say, 16, 17 at the university level. Yeah. And a lot of work in the community. But you work hands-on with young children. So how do you model that, or how do you work with that, with emotion
I
regulation?
find that young people are a lot telling us how they're feeling, children especially, they're telling us how they're feeling through their behaviors, right? Because they don't have the language to say, I'm really frustrated. Rather, they're going to have a full-on meltdown. And you as a parent are the one who has to say, you know what? It is so hard. It's so hard when you don't get what you want. It's so hard when you don't, like, you want to have that cookie, but mom said no. And it's so hard that you want to go on that slide, but we can't go on the slide right now. This is really upsetting. You're really sad. You're really mad. When you're ready, I'm here for you. You know, if you need a hug, do you need a hug? Come here. You know, let me give you a hug. Come here. Let me hold your hands. Let's do some breathing. You know, it's so hard when we don't get what we want. What can we do instead? Berak, there's something that you touched on that I thought was really great, was about being really genuine ourselves with the mistakes when we make them. Previously, a lot of the recommendations were that people should not have disagreements in front of their kids between different parents. And now people are saying, you know what, have the disagreement respectfully, right? But show your kids how you work through it. Don't just leave it.
And how you
Don't
make
leave
up
it.
as well. Absolutely. Because a lot of children see their parents fighting or arguing with other family members, and that creates fear and anxiety in the child. And if, like you said, if you do not show them how you work through it in a healthy way, of course, and how you make up at the end and resolve it, that fear is going to stay with them. That can cause a lot of anxiety in their future relationships with people. Yeah, please go ahead.
Exactly. And you know what? That affects children a lot. It affects teenagers a lot. The relationships they see around them, they know when there's tension. They know whether you've had that disagreement behind closed doors or you had it out in the open. But I think what's key is them seeing resolution, is them seeing people solve their problems together and then maybe even debrief with them. You know, what was that like for you when, you know, we were not in a good place together? And how are you feeling about it now? In terms of also expressing emotions, I think a lot of us do like story time with our kids, right? So there's so many books that I'm sure we have at home that have, this is one of our favorites. It's called The Very Cranky Bear. And in it, there's so many different characters and they all have different facial expressions. And they're all like, some of them are scared of the bear and the bear himself is really frustrated. So just when you're reading to your kids at story time, be like, you know, I wonder, how do you think the lion is feeling? How do you think the zebra is feeling? How do you know? You know, there's books like I Was So Mad, and right when you're reading it, you're actually like it goes
The
through it.
author?
With those.
Do you mind just sharing who the author is in
Oh, this
case
is
it's
Mercer
compared?
Mayer. Berak, we used to read these when we were little. Remember?
No,
Remember
I don't.
that? No? Okay, come
I
on.
actually did grade one, kindergarten, or we nursery school in England. That's
Okay.
where I did that. And I did grade 1, 2, and 3 in Algeria and Libya. So I didn't come across these books. I had some hardcore Arab Islamic, school system upbringing there. But it was when I came to Canada in grade 4 and up. But I don't remember that. I remember Charlotte's Web, which
Okay.
really explored a lot about emotions.
Amazing,
Yeah,
amazing. And I love that you said that, because whether it's a picture book or a chapter book, there
yeah.
are so many ways to use stories to really teach emotion, to talk about how different characters are coping with emotion. And I think that's amazing.
And speaking of which, I wanted to share some books. Yes, we prepared, Fairouz and I prepared for this one, absolutely, with the actual stuff. So these are books that were given to me and sent to me from England and given to me from the author Sukaina Amir Ali Mukhtar. And if I'll give you afterwards the, let me see here. I forget where you can find these. Forgive me, I'll find it again, but she is on Instagram. And so she has this wonderful book called Aaron's Gratitude Rock. So Positive Pete and Mindful Molly are the two characters that go through the book and exploring this one. I don't think we've read this one yet. We have read these two books. So Positive Pete and Mindful Molly about Jake's silence. And so it's a great storybook that goes through what's happening with the character, but then at the end it also gives you an opportunity to explore the emotions and go through them. So how creative can you be? Interesting facts and research, and gets you to reflect. So draw a picture of whomever, research, write a journal. So it's very proactive as well. And this is one of our favorite ones. Positive Pete and Mindful Molly look at Jaber and Nadia's strength. So it's pretty diverse, ethnically diverse as well in terms of the names of the characters that we can also relate to. And in this book, this was really great as I watched my daughter read and think and reflect, and how she was talking about the emotions and would stop. You could see the thinking going on in her head. Just beautiful how she reflected. And the end of this book also goes through different reflections where it talks about writing and remembering different aspects of what's going on in your life. Did we lose you, Fairouz? Are you there? I think Fairouz is no longer in here. Sign in. So while we're getting Fairouz in here, I'm going to continue with this. Got a lot of tech issues today. So Fairouz is just going to come back in. So her laptop died. So while she's doing that, I'm going to do story time here, I guess, with the Positive Pete and Mindful Molly. So the book talks about patience, talks about fear, intention, words of affirmation, journaling. So some really good stuff here. I don't think you can see it on Instagram unless I move it here in the middle. So it's some really great ways of exploring emotions, visualizing, meditating, living in the present, being mindful, gratitude. And this is explained thoroughly. You can see it here in the book. Really enjoy these. And I know my daughter herself really enjoys it. There's a glossary in the back that looks at, where are we? So different emotions as well. And this is very useful, I find, again, for children to understand these words and work through them. Not very clear, but that's all right. So this is one resource I find that's really great for children. These are new in the last, I've gotten these in the last year or two. Another really fabulous one by the same author is this book called Emotionally Intelligent Children. And again, we have the two characters, Positive Pete and Assalamu alaikum. Sister is back. I cannot hear you, sister. Can you join the sound? We're good? There we go. Assalamu alaikum. Welcome back.
Thank you.
So we've been looking at, excuse me, these resources here. So this is a full syllabus for parents for different age groups, for very young till I think I forget the age group, but it goes up into middle school, high school, and it talks about emotions, words of affirmation, ego, forgiveness, visualization, passion, living in the present, meditation, growth mindset, journaling, patience, emotional mastery, and resources. And this is something developed by somebody from our own community. So this is amazing. Always love to support our local professionals, as well as endorsing really great resources that are useful, whether it's in the school, and this is designed for school, but also these books here that we're looking at here to be used at home when we're exploring emotions, along with the other books that you have. And one more last one that I have here that was also sent to me by Sukaina. And so she has a whole set of these books, and this is phenomenal. This whole book is about your mind is magical, believe. So Book of Dreams, connect with the power within you. And this is for children. This is for children, which is amazing, because I use workbooks like that for young adults and adults in university. And we have this for children. And this, again, you can see how colorful it is. It's got a little hijabi in there, very diverse. I love representation. Check that out. Isn't that awesome? The little hijabi. So yes, it's very diverse. Children with disabilities as well. So it's very diverse to cover the whole range of students. So when students and kids see this, they can relate and connect if they fit into that. So again, it gets into, drawing your emotions. And this is not something I remember us growing up with. Like I told you, I was in England and in the Middle East. You got emotions, deal with it, toughen up. That's the kind of attitude. But we see the impact of when we do mindful activities like this for children in the classroom. And we see this from recent studies as well, that aggression and violence goes down, no longer detention and hitting in the playground, right? We also see that students are actually accomplishing much more within the classroom curriculum in terms of academia in the classroom, but also their relationships with their friends in the classroom when they have mindful practices daily. And so I'm really big on this in terms of emotional intelligence for children and being aware how to regulate their emotions and normalizing that. So we've just shown you a variety of our favorite resources, and these are accessible online. If you are going to order them, they might take a while to get in, but highly recommend them.
Yeah, and another activity, because kids learn through play, you can do a simple Google search for feeling faces. You can grab some Play-Doh, whether you make it at home if you have time right now, or if you already have some made. And you and your kids can make some happy faces, sad faces. How are you feeling right now? How do you look on the outside to everybody? How do you really feel on the inside? You can actually have both those faces. And sometimes some kids do better with hands-on activities, and some kids do better with books and visuals.
Yeah, I found that I was always a mixture of both. I liked listening to the person in front of me, but I also need something to look at and write. So this is a good opportunity to observe your children in terms of how they learn best. And I'm sure from school you also know. So that way you can employ whatever strategies that work best for your children to learn the best way. Yeah. Thank you so much, Fairouz, for sharing your favorites. Okay, so next question we have here: how to discuss COVID, the pandemic, the virus, in regards to fears and anxiety.
So the first thing I think we need to be aware of is how much media and tech, like how much information our kids have access to, and making sure that their access is developmentally and age appropriate. At the beginning of all this, we would have our prime minister's daily announcement or talk. We had it playing on our TV, and it didn't need to be on when the kids are awake, to be quite honest. I didn't really see a point in it being on. We weren't listening to it. They weren't really listening to it. But there are words in there that I didn't think my kids could really understand, and I didn't think it was helpful. But really framing it, I would start by asking them what they know. So what do you know about what's going on right now? And it's amazing that even prior to school, how much kids had already been talking about this. Yes. And it's amazing how much on like their online platforms, how much they're talking about it. And what we really want to make sure is that they have the right information. We want to make sure that it's appropriate for where they're at. And we want to check in and make sure that they know what they can control in this situation. Because that's one of the best things you can do when you feel like a lot of worry, a lot of anxiety. You focus on what you can do. So you want to teach them how to wash their hands. You want to tell them why we're not going on the slide. There's germs out there. People are getting sick. But that's why we're staying home. And inshallah, we're going to get through this and everything's going to be okay. Those kinds of things. There are books that have already been written specifically about COVID, and they're aimed to different age groups. So what I'll do is I'll share those links with you, Berak, if that's okay. And then if you can send them out after, I think that'd be great.
What we'll do is we'll write the names of the books that we have provided here along with their authors. Perfect. And also the links. After we're done, we'll put them in so you'll find it on the Facebook inshallah link. Yeah.
Perfect. So yeah, talk about, what do you know? How are you feeling about what you know? Going back to what Sister Berak said, normalizing, like, you know what? It's okay to be worried right now. It's okay to miss your grandparents. It's okay to miss your friends and your teachers. And how else can we stay in touch with them right now? Get them involved. Let them lead to what's going to make them feel better. I think somebody had alluded to a child who was having some nightmares. And I think that, dreams can definitely, they can be, a symptom of what's going on. And, you can ask them, I feel like you can address that a number of ways. One, you can ask them what the dream was, and then ask them to change the ending of the dream. So how could we have turned that bad dream into a good dream? And then you can play it out with puppets, you can draw it out, you can change the ending. And alhamdulillah, since we're all Muslim, like, feel free to use certain surahs to recite to them before they go to bed. My daughter, she likes this.
Mine too. Go ahead.
Yeah.
I'll tell you a story after you finish yours.
Yeah. My daughter likes to sleep with a piece of khaki shafa underneath her pillow, It's whatever makes them feel comforted. Asking them, like, what do you think when you wake up after you have a bad dream? If they say, oh, I feel like I was gonna die, you can say, yeah, that must be so hard. You must have been so scared. How do you know that you're okay when you wake up from a bad dream? And you can tell them, like, touch your pillow, touch your comforter, look around your room, touch your tasbih if you have that in your bed, tell yourself that Allah is with you. Teach them how to do this positive self-talk. Teach them how to correct some of their maybe cognitive distortions, thought distortions they might be having, and just really support them through that. But Berak, you had a story.
Just to add to that, you reminded me when you mentioned your daughter before bed. I remember one time my daughter mentioned she had nightmares, and then so we talked about, I said, well, what are you thinking about before bed, or what happened? She said, you know what? I didn't read Quran before bed. I'm going to do that tonight. And the next morning, I didn't even ask her. I waited for her to mention something. She did. She said, alhamdulillah, mama, I didn't have any nightmares. And it's because I read that Quran before I went to bed. And subhanAllah, just the purity of how that came out from her, that she truly believed it helped her. And it did. It's so beautiful to see that, like you said, positive affirmation of using du'as and Quran that we know has a positive impact on our mental well-being, but seeing that in action from a child who is not so much distorted by what's out there, so to speak, how purely that came out and how she said that helped her. It was so genuinely beautiful how, that it manifested that way. Absolutely.
Yeah. And if you really want to like take it somewhere really cool, write a book about their experience. So let's say your kid's name is Hannah, Hannah and the bad dreams. And then
I nominate you to do that.
Oh no, I mean every parent can write a personalized story for their kid. Gotcha. Right? It's basically a trauma narrative. And you go through it, but then you can change the ending, right? You can appropriately label. You can label the emotions. You can put coping strategies into the book. You guys can reread it. But yeah, inshallah, I guess be on the lookout for my next book.
Please do. And using ideas like we were talking about earlier, when you got cut off, I got into detailed storytelling over here. We looked at in the back of the book again, how you mentioned perhaps you can do this with your children, any activity, not just for nightmares, any topic this could be a great activity during this time, using creativity, using language skills, and spending time together and really connecting and talking about emotions. This is a great idea, sister. And talking about emotions like it was out in this book. Again, inshallah, we'll put these out later so you have access to them. There's another question that on Instagram that related to emotions specifically. Okay. Salam, my son has been more angry these days with the quarantine. What do you suggest? And while you take the lead on this question, I'm going to go grab the cat because he always provides pet therapy for us and kids love seeing him. I'll be right back with that.
Okay, so what we know is that when we are stressed out, when our body perceives threat, we go into a survival mode. We go into survival mode, and that looks like either fight. So we are ready, like imagine that we're walking in a forest and we come across a black bear. Some of us might feel very confident and we might say, you know what, I can take this bear down with my bare hands, or you might have a baseball bat with you that day and say, you know what, I am ready to do this. You stand your ground and you're ready for a fight. Some people, oh my God, mashallah, I really don't know how to keep talking when they're such a cute animal right there.
Loz has come in and he's here to dispel fears and reduce our stress and anger.
Love it. Love it. So I'm just talking about survival mode, fight, flight, and freeze. That's where I'm at. So we're talking about if you're in a forest and there's a big black bear, some people might feel like they can take this bear on and they can fight it. Some people are going to be like, no, I'm running away as fast as possible. And they run. And some people are just going to stand very still and they are going to, they're going to freeze. And they're going to hope and pray that that bear just walks on by. So our bodies automatically go into this. And currently, depending on how much your kids know about what's going on, could very well be that they have been that this part of their brain has been activated. Not only that, but routines have been thrown off, right? They may be having more tech time than usual, right? There's so many different factors right now that are contributing to how even you and I are behaving. It's not just our kids who are behaving differently, it's you and I too, right?
And we're trying to figure out how to behave normal in this anyways. We're trying to figure this out, and this confusion in ourselves can also be picked up by our kids, which is okay. And we can say, hey, we're okay. We're trying to figure this out together. Exactly. So it's important, I think, to express that, but also not, because again, children look up to us as their world and as perfect. And here we are showing imperfection, so to speak. And that's okay. That's allowed. We can show that, but not necessarily, because they still need good guidance and confidence.
Right.
Because then if they see us completely confused, completely out of it, completely not knowing, that can also shake their faith, so to speak, in having somebody that they can trust and rely on, basically. So we have to also figure out a balance of that as well. Sorry, go ahead. Yeah.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And so these are three of the survival modes that get triggered when we feel threatened, but there's also another one. It's the need to tend and befriend to others, and I think that's what we're seeing a lot of too. And that one actually gets left out of the conversation a lot, but that's also a survival mode as well. So if your child you feel is more in fight mode, what do you do? It's a great question. I want to know how your child is expressing the anger right now. And I want to see if we can find a parallel, safe way for them to do that. So for example, if your child is angry and throwing things, then let's get them maybe some ice cubes and we take them outside and then we let the kid throw ice cubes at the fence. If your child is being physically aggressive with somebody, then maybe we take them outside and, we give them a pillow and we let them have at it. So we want to show them how to cope with anger in a way that is healthy and safe for them and for the other people around them. But I think also labeling it for what it is, right? You're really angry right now. You just don't feel good. You're super mad. Just labeling it for them and helping them regulate, help them come down. Because when somebody is stressed and that survival mode is activated, they're not accessing the logical part of the brain. First, you need to help them calm down, and then you can actually, figure out what's really going on underneath the anger. Is it worry? Are they worried about somebody? You'd be surprised. I'm talking to kids. I'm working with students right now over the phone, and it's not until the end of a conversation where we're talking about our gratitudes and our hope, well, they'll say, yeah, I'm just really grateful that my grandma tested negative for COVID. I'm like, wow, this whole time when we've been talking about everything else, and your parents have been telling me all their worries, this never came up at all. But here you've been the whole time worried about your grandma being tested for COVID, and that is super scary. So if you can, find out what's going under the anger. Another thing I would do is when your child is neutral, when everything is okay, inshallah, there are some moments where things are okay. I want you to approach your child and say, hey, I've noticed that you're getting angry a lot. What's going on? Talk to me. I just want to understand. And as they talk to you, repeat it back, summarize, try to pull more information. And once you have information from them, summarize what you got. This is actually a method called collaborative problem solving. It's from a book. If you read The Explosive Child, it outlines the whole thing for you. It's awesome.
Sure.
Awesome
I have to jump in here and throw an inappropriate comment / joke.
Oh, God.
I'm hearing all of this. I studied this. I practice it as much as I can with my own daughter, with my clients. And how does this really work within our communities? I'm sorry to be honest. We don't hear these things. Somebody mentioned, this does not work with families where there's abuse from the parents, or people who use cultural upbringing methods rather than this type of upbringing, which, by the way, is very Islamic. And it has Islamic principles and roots taught by the Prophet and the Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. But culturally, this is not the language that is used. culturally we have the flying na'al, which is the sandal, and the wooden stick used for cooking, as unfortunately part of the upbringing. So I got to be real here and say, because as you're talking, I'm like, I get this narrative, but from a cultural standpoint, we know how most families raise their kids. And unfortunately, it's not this way. This kind of method is not being used with our kids, which is why you have kids perhaps who are very rebellious, who've moved far away from Islam, where you have parents come back and say, can you please teach my kid, or what do I need to do to get my kid back into praying, coming to the mosque, or wearing the hijab? So as much as what you're saying makes sense to a lot of people, we also have to be realistic. And I've seen this from some of the comments as well, people reiterating this. How does this work in a household where there's abuse, where there's cultural methods of upbringing, or a generational ways of raising trauma as well, and raising, rather than following this Islamic psychological method?
Well, and I think this goes back to how at the beginning we talked about how our own mental health is going to impact the kind of parenting that we're doing, right? There's a lot of, like, with abuse and those kinds of situations, it's really hard to help a child who is living in a dangerous environment all the time. Safety is going to be paramount, right? So, help your child have a safe space in the home, have them have at least one safe relationship with one person in that home. It's hard. It's hard when healthy patterns of communication have not been role modeled. It's hard if they haven't been role modeled for us, and it's hard if we're not always role modeling them for our children. But this is where I go back to what you were saying earlier, Berak. Be open and transparent and own your mistakes. Own your mistakes. We can all own our mistakes. We can say to our kids, you know what? That wasn't right how I handled it. I'm sorry. They say the 3 most powerful things you can say to somebody are, I'm sorry, I love you, and I forgive you. But yeah, those are the 3 things.
The hardest things.
But they're the most powerful things, right? Yeah. And you're right. It sounds like fairy dust, but it does work. It works if you try to sit and talk to your kids and you try to find out where they're at. And if you just genuinely connect with them, if that hasn't been done for you in your past, I'm sorry, right? Like, that's really hard to live through. That's really, really hard.
We hear this language and discourse from parents who say, this is the way I was brought up. This is what I know. This is the only way. But then when you look at sayings of Imam Ali alayhi salam, and I'm paraphrasing here, where he discusses, raise your children not the way that you were raised.
Yep.
You're in a different generation, in a different time, in a different world. Look at the world that we are in presently today. Our kids, primary school, are doing virtual schooling. Where was this in our grandparents' generation? So whatever our grandparents taught us, perhaps may not be useful or beneficial today, even though the foundations are there. Absolutely. We're not denying that. We're not pushing tradition away, but the good, right? So taking the good from all the generations. But also this comes back to what we were saying earlier, is that, okay, so we can admit that we've made mistakes. What are we going to do about those mistakes? We cannot keep on with the attitude, this is the way I was raised, this is the only way that I know. No, there is so many different resources, and access to resources is not the same as it was before. You can teach yourself, you can ask professionals, you can get support from so many different ways and people in order to change and work on those things and get help into doing that. Otherwise, we are going to lose a whole generation of people, it's so sad to see that. And especially in the times that we are in right now, we have to figure out how to really reconnect. SubhanAllah, I was saying yesterday with Sheikh Azan Nasser how we are grounded now. That sounds almost like a punishment, but we can choose to look at it this way. We can reframe that and say, no, it's an opportunity. Grounded as in, you know what? Our feet are on the ground now. Yeah. Okay, we are stayed put right now. What are we going to do during this time? And especially with Ramadan around the corner, what kind of traditions are we going to be doing at home that can bring our families closer together? Of course, we're talking about households, inshallah, that are free from abuse. Right. Yes, there's dysfunction. I always joke around with my clients. Would you, normally, dysfunctionally normal, basically aka normal. That's, I think it's normal. Every house has some kind of dysfunction, but it's to be able to function in a healthy way. But of course, when we're talking about homes that have abuse and there's violence, no, these methods are not going to work in that space. There are definitely coping strategies to deal with the situation until you're safely out of it. But inshallah, on Monday, with my guest Lisa Vogel, we're going to be talking in detail about domestic abuse and abuse in general and survival. But this is something to consider also here when we're talking about a normal, again, dysfunctionally functional household, not a household where there's violence and abuse, because this is not going to work here.
Correct. Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Is it time now for our next activity, or do we have one more question here? Oh, we do have one more question. You're up for it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
How can we be aware of a potential meltdown? I love the word meltdown here in our kids, because I have an image of being in the mall and a 2 3-year-old throwing themselves on the floor, screaming and yelling, and just parents watching their kids. No malls these days. So the meltdowns are happening at home. So how can we teach them to effectively deal with that, or be aware? First, be aware and how to deal with it.
So you know that saying, prevention is cure?
Yes.
Yes. So in healthy households, right? First of all, you want to set like the best kind of environment we can in this time. So what does that look like? That looks like routine. That looks like consistency. That looks like every morning, getting your teeth brushed, getting changed, taking walks, building in, good tradition and rituals into the day, consistent sleep and consistent eat. Is your kid hangry? Is your kid tired? I want us to rule those out when it comes to a meltdown. And I want us to recognize that sometimes meltdowns are happening because the kid is just overtired or overstimulated, right? So we prevent this kind of stuff.
Sorry, or picking up from our hangry emotions or our other emotions as well. They're sponges. They absorb everything. They're a lot smarter and aware than we think. Even if, let's say, consciously we think they're not aware of something, subconsciously they're pulling this in with their questions, the way they respond to us, the way they interact with us, the way they are showing this behavior as well. So this is something really important to be aware of as well.
Totally.
We contribute to that as well.
Yeah. I mean, sometimes we're working from home. So we're on a laptop, we're texting somebody from work, and our child comes into our space and is like, I'm hungry. And you're like, I literally just fed you like 10 minutes ago. And, so you tell them to like take a few more minutes, and they come back and they're like, I'm hungry. And
I want a hug. I want a hug. I've heard, yeah, I want the hug. Or it's like, but you're home. Aren't you supposed to spend time with your family? Why are you working? Who's going to pay the bills? It's hard to, of course, explain that to a young child's mind. But yeah, they keep coming into that space, bless them, because they see us in front of them. They miss us. They're not used to seeing us in front of them this often unless you are at home all the time with them. They're used to being at school with their peers, with their teachers, other interactions. They see us at home even if we're working. I'm sure a lot of parents have been struggling with this and taking turns. I know some of my family members, they're taking turns working. My colleagues at work, they're taking turns working part-time. So because of childcare, the Sheikh mentioned yesterday that him and his wife take turns taking care of their daughter and end up with glitter on their faces, and they're not on their turbans, right?
Not on the turban.
Not on the turban, no. But I find that so interesting in terms of how we've all shifted to that. And how is this time, impacting our children? But yeah, sorry, I interrupted.
No, that's okay. That's okay. Where was I?
You were talking about how, in terms of how can be aware of potential meltdowns, and because working and how that impacts them.
So try as much as possible to be starting off, on the right foot. So try to have your kids be going to bed at a good time, getting enough sleep, getting enough nutrition, enough activity. Easier said than done, I know, but what I'm saying is trying our best to do it, right? And then when you see the signs, a lot of you know your kids so well, and you know that it's about to come. You start to see the quivering of the upper lip. You start to see the change in the breathing pattern. You start to see the water in the eyes, right? And I'll tell you what, crying is actually super healthy. Super healthy. And it's super healthy when a child is not getting what they want and you're telling them no for a healthy reason, and they cry in response and you help them work through that. Super healthy. And so, you're gonna see these signs, and you're gonna come in and you're gonna hold their hand. Okay, you're gonna get down to their eye level, and you're gonna stay regulated yourself. You're gonna, make sure you're in a good spot to do it. And you're gonna hold their hand, and you're gonna be like, let's get our cookies. Now you know how to cookie breathe. And you're gonna say, let's breathe in. Let's breathe that chocolate chip cookie in together. Let's blow it out. Something is making you really upset right now. Let's breathe in. Let's blow out. Right? And so as you co-regulate with your child, as you start bringing them down, and it's easier to bring them down when their intensity is about here than when their intensity gets up to here, right?
Yeah.
It's awesome if you can see them when they're up on that, going up. Intervene, regulate them, bring them down, and then be like, what's going on? What's up? What can I do? What do you need? Right? Tune in. Sometimes they're going to need or want something that they're not going to be able to have. And you're going to say, you know what? I know you really want to have a chocolate bar, but you can't have the chocolate bar. And that's really upsetting for you. Here are some things you can have instead.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's so healthy to be able to do something like that. Again, we have to be realistic. You mentioned something very important here, that you have to be regulated as well. If you're angry and frustrated, and let's say there's been an issue at home, or you're even upset with what your child has done, how can you work on that? How can you regulate yourself while not blowing up in front of your child, but how to deal with yourself while trying to regulate? Do you have any tips for that?
Yeah, sometimes it's labeling our own emotions. I'm really frustrated right now because I just fed you like 5 minutes ago and you want to eat. I'm really, I'm struggling. I'm really upset because you're choosing to, you're trying to talk to me about wanting more junk food. And you know how I feel about that, so labeling your own emotions, that is also helpful with self-regulation, right? Checking in with yourself. If you need to take a time out, say, before I can talk to you about this, I just need 2 minutes for myself. And if the only place you can get that is in the bathroom, go to the bathroom and close the door. Take a time out for yourself if that's what you need to do. If you come in, if you come in blazing and your kid is blazing, that's just not going to go well. No. Right? No. And then we can't be surprised. This happens all the time, Berak, right? Then they come to us. But, we want to intervene early. And I love when parents can be that coach and that motivation, like that person in the kid's life to really teach them how to regulate.
To turn to them, but to trust them, to go to when there's an issue. I love when my daughter walks in from school and I'm upstairs and she's haven't come upstairs, and I hear a huge sigh instead of Salaam alaikum. So I would say first Salaam alaikum, and then you hear and then she comes straight up and talking about, I'm like, how are you? I'm not good. Oh, what happened today, mama? This happened at school today. And then she would start mentioning dramas of grade 3s. And I asked my mom one time, I'm like, Mom, do you actually listen to everything we spoke to you about? Like, how did you deal with that? Because I'm trying to figure out am I actually listening to this nonsense? It's so cute, but at the same time, it's just when we're dealing with the outbreak of COVID when it first started, or we're dealing with work and issues there, and the child comes to you and talks about the drama at grade 3, your mind, it's hard to take that. And I recall my mom saying, we looked like we were listening to you when our minds were elsewhere, but we showed, I guess, what we would call active listening skills, but their minds were probably not with us. Sometimes we have to do things like that when there's a lot to juggle. But showing that, I think, interest and that active listening to our children, again, models that compassion and care. And sometimes we really do have to switch off from what's going on around us, because this is at their level that is so important for them right now with their emotions and their struggles. And we need to give importance to that and give time to them. And I know it's so hard as a working parent, or even a parent who's at home with other responsibilities and pulls and challenges, but sometimes just doing that. And just like when we get home from work, back in the day 4 weeks ago, when we'd come home from work and we need those 2 minutes to kind of just detach ourselves from the outside world and get the support and love from the environment in the home. I think we need to create that for our children as well, creating that safe space so they can come running to us. They can trust us. This is how you build that trust young. And I'm sure you've heard this too, sister, where parents come to you in terms of, how do I get my child to talk to me? Somebody mentioned here that my child just says, I don't know, like, or doesn't talk, stays quiet as a 9-year-old, they mentioned here. How do you get somebody engaged to talk to you? And it truly starts very young. If you've started this relationship, developing it very young, and we're talking as young as in the womb, talking to your child and continuing to do that, you've made it natural for your child to talk to you. And I bless the parents that have come to us who, in utter tears and frustration of, I've done everything you've mentioned, I've done everything that, what I've heard from the sheikhs, from the guidance counselors at school, and my child still doesn't talk to me, or that. We also have taken into consideration genetics, personality, that's a big thing, right? And also the environment that they're in. Perhaps there's something going on here more than just that. So just things to be aware of. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think for like the 9, like for any range, grab out those family games, right?
Oh, one of my favorites. I love that game.
Yeah, we'll play sometime, Berak.
All right. I'm so excited.
Grab those games.
I have the pony version, just to let you know.
Oh,
yeah.
Sounds very exciting. Grab the Uno. And even if they're not talking about their feelings or their emotions, just like Sister Berak said, everybody's personality is different. As long as they know that you're there for them and you care for them, and you try to just be there with them, you're playing a game, you're laughing. If they won't play a game with you, maybe you set up a Zoom game time with extended family and some cousins. Maybe they'll come to that, right? Play with them, go out for a walk with them. You'd be surprised what teenagers will talk to you about on a car ride, right? I think also sometimes nowadays, I feel like sometimes it's us as the parents who are not available to our kids because we're stuck on our phones.
Yes.
We're on WhatsApp, we start off these like video calls with the intention of it being for the kid to keep in touch with that person. But sometimes it's more about us keeping in touch with that person. And your child is already like, they've already talked as much as they possibly want to and they're done, right? So get out the games, connect with your child, offer them other people to talk to. We talked about different crisis lines like Nasiha, let them have that information so they can talk to somebody trusted. And inshallah, another way is maybe writing. You could write a letter to your child and, have a notebook where you write to them and then maybe they write back to you. And it doesn't always have to be verbal.
And it can be done through art. If you've got a little crafts person like my little human, I support that craft by bringing huge shelves and organizing. And whenever we go to Dollarama, it's very limited now, but whenever we do go for that run, grab a whole bunch of crafts and finding that they express a lot. They truly do express their emotions through that art. I've seen my daughter express her dreams, her hopes, things happening in class at the time when they were in classrooms, and just how she envisions herself. And it's so powerful. And there's a whole therapy around that, art therapy. A few of my colleagues that engaged in that, and they taught us some strategies. And it's just so beautiful to be able to express yourself through that. And it could be through, of course, dolls as well. If you notice your children playing house and you watch how they communicate with each other, the dolls, they are mimicking our behaviors. They're mimicking the world around them. And this is another way of paying attention to your child in terms of what's happening and what's going on.
Yeah, if they won't talk to you, play with them.
Yes.
Talk with them. Fake an interest in something that they like.
Yeah.
And get right into it with them.
Fake is the the big word here. Yeah.
Like if you're not into Minecraft or whatever, get into it and, play beside them, play with them, not all day long, in healthy doses, but enter their world, be a part of their world, show interest in them, just like you would anybody you want to get close to. You're going to show interest in them. You're going to give them a lot of eye contact. You're going to give them a lot of your attention. And inshallah, you can, build a bond.
I really like that, and I find it in my personal relationship with my daughter that has been very enriching. Legos is a huge thing. Legos, like
Lego friends. Or Lego elves.
Everything, Lego elves, Friends, like instant, like all of that. She loves all of that. And I find that when, again, in the act of playing, whether you're interested or not, do the act of listening and show interest. When you show that to your child, they feel safe. That's when they start opening up. That's when they start sharing. When they're happy and engaged in that game, then they if you do ask your questions at this point, instead of right away after school or when they're upset, how are you? What's going on? What's this? They're not going to talk to you like that if they're not feeling trust. They're not feeling safe. But when you create that in the form of crafts or art or games, that their guards go down and they're more likely to share that. And I think that's a very beneficial tool to have in our toolbox of how to manage, and especially with meltdowns or just engaging and regulating emotions. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I think it's time now for our second stress reduction.
All right. So we're going to do something called a cloud push away. Berak, you ready?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, you need to stand up. Wait, stand up. Come on. I'm going
to knock down the screen behind me if I stand up.
Okay. So what I want you guys to do here, and what you talk your child through, is I want you to imagine that there is a cloud above your head.
Okay. There's a cloud.
What color is your cloud? Berak, what color is your cloud?
Mine's white right now.
Yours is white. Okay. Mine is purple. It's a purple.
Okay. Oh, you can be imaginative?
Yeah.
All right. In this case, turquoise.
Love it. So you're going to take one hand, put it on your waist.
All right.
Okay, one hand. You're going to reach up to that cloud and you're going to push it. Push that cloud.
Okay, I'm pushing it. Yeah, pushing it.
Like the cloud is coming back and you're going to push it up again.
You're going to push up the cloud.
And you're going to just stretch out as you push. Okay. Give a nice little stretch. Push it up. Push it up.
Like yoga moves as well.
Yep. And then you're going to put that arm down. You're going to go up with the other hand because you're going to realize the cloud's actually coming back down.
Uh-oh. All right, push that cloud away.
It's going to bounce up. Going to bring that down. Now you're going to use both hands.
And
push
the cloud away.
And you know what you can do to strengthen this activity? At this point, you can say, what are you worried about? Let's put those worries in that cloud.
Uh-huh.
And now that cloud, guess what? It's changing into a bubble. And we're actually going to do one last push. And I'm going to watch that bubble float away.
You can incorporate squats in this too.
Well, the whole thing about that, right, is that release of the tension. So often in these times, we're carrying around tension in our bodies, right, which are coming from how we're feeling and how stressed we are and how many demands and how many demands we have, how many roles we're playing right now. And it's all here. It's all like stuck, right?
In this area here.
When we can move our bodies, like tell me right now, how do your shoulders feel?
Yeah, oh, nice. Yeah.
Yeah, because we got some of that tension out, right? So we're teaching our kids how to do this. We're doing this with them. We're building it into our day, and we're not just waiting for a bad moment, and that's when we practice. We are practicing this every day so that when those moments come, this is not foreign to them. When you start being like, hey, you know what? I think we need to do some cloud push-ups, you know?
Or smelling the cookies. I really encourage this with my young adults age group, where we talk about prevention is better than cure, the prophetic saying of that. And the idea here is to manage your stress even when you're not stressed, because then your body gets wired, gets used to that routine. So doing the deep breathing when you have anxiety and panic attacks is not going to work when you first apply that. But the more daily practice of the breathing and meditation and pushing the cloud or breathing the cookies, your body gets used to it as a calming, meditative, mindful practice, so that when that panic attack occurs, when that anxiety occurs, when that fear, when that stress happens, and you apply the strategy, it has the ability to work much more than when you don't practice it. Just like people who complain about, oh, my body is loose and not fit, and you're eating all this, it's dark chocolate and it has nuts, protein.
And there's nuts, yeah, that's good. That's
antioxidants. It's a good one. But the point being is, if you're overeating and not practicing healthy, mindful eating or exercise, well, you know what? You're not going to see a fit, toned body, most likely. Whereas the more you practice at the gym, well, right now it's at home, and the more you engage in this type of, there's so many resources out there, by the way, online resources on how to exercise without actual equipment or using whatever equipment you have at the home to do that into daily practice. And you will see results if you follow it continuously. So the same thing goes when it comes to stress or mindfulness or stress reduction strategies. It's not going to work instantly like that. You got to constantly go at it to build it as part of your routine. It becomes normal. It becomes part of your lingo, part of your language that you have within the home. Yeah.
Totally.
Thank you so much for the cloud pushing. So you had a purple cloud and I had a aqua turquoise one.
Yeah.
Is that your favorite color?
I like a lot of different colors. Depends on the day. Yeah. But I do love purple. It's one of them.
Yeah.
I love turquoise too, because my name, right?
Fairouz means turquoise. That's right. That's one of my favorite colors. I grew up loving that to the point where I think I would buy everything in sight that I found turquoise. And when one of my birthdays, a lot of my friends, this is by the way when I'm an adult, not a kid, everything they bought me was turquoise to the point that I had overload and I'd stopped liking it for the longest time.
That's totally fair. But then you met me and you were like, now I don't need any more.
Oh, my dear Fairouz, you crack me up. I love your
collection complete. Collection complete.
Collection of Fairouz is complete. Absolutely. You know, color can be such a therapeutic tool, however you want to call it, medium to connect with your children as well. I think there's a whole therapy around that as well, the impact of colors. I'm not very familiar with it, but I know it's used when they do team buildups, icebreakers, and things like that. It's coming back to me slowly. The color blue, green, gold, and red.
Yeah, personality. That's a personality thing, right?
I think so. I think so.
Test, and then you're one of those colors, and
something about your personality. Yeah, I don't quite remember it. Not too sure if there's a lot of research involved in that, but definitely it's impactful in play therapy, art therapy. And when you're engaging with your children, of course, you want bright colors that can impact the soul. I came across this saying once and it just stuck with me. It said that in blue, the soul soars. Oh, wow. And in green, the soul rests. Wow. I love that. And I always try in my office to have the nature colors of blue and green because I find the soul really does. I love greenery. I do not have a green thumb. So I have a lot of artificial plants in my office, but they do the job. As soon as clients walk in, they're like, oh, it's so nice and comfortable and welcoming and cozy. So I do find that color can have a huge impact. We know that red, danger, our minds fire with that, but perhaps working around colors can also help calm.
I love that you said that because I think even going out in nature and being mindful and paying attention to the colors. So saying to your kids, like, look, what color, like how green is the grass today? And really getting down there and let's see what the grass feels like today and let's see how it smells today. Because we know that nature is an awesome coping strategy, right? And then looking up at the sky and saying, you know, what color blue would you call this today? And, you know, what's your favorite shade of blue that you see right now? Draw their attention, help them be mindful, you know, before they eat that piece of fruit or that cucumber. You know, be like, how green is this cucumber? This is awesome, right? And just practicing mindfulness in those ways that's not even planned. It's just part of the routine already.
Yeah, we got cut off from Instagram. I forgot to mention that. Sorry about that. We're so engaged in the discussion. I forgot to mention to our audience, but we're back now. And so we were just talking about color and how that can be a great way to talk to our children and how to connect with them in nature and just before we eat, being mindful. I really like that idea you mentioned, observing the color and the flavor, the taste of cucumbers or peaches or whatever it is that we have in front of us before eating. That's a great idea. Yeah. So back to our questions here. We have another one here that says, how do you find the motivation to teach your kids and plan various activities when anxiety and fear is at hand, especially with what's happening right now? So this is a beautiful question and it's multifaceted. So we're going to look at it from the religious, parenting, community building, and mental health aspects. Go ahead, sister.
This is a fantastic question. I love it. And it goes back to the whole, when we're not feeling our best, it's really hard to give our best to our kids, right? And I think it's so easy to get overwhelmed right now with social media. We're getting like daily daily activities that we could be doing. We're getting activities from school that we could be doing with our kids. You're listening to this call, you're getting activities from me and Berak about what you could be doing with your kids. You hear about this workshop on Zoom and that workshop on Zoom, and there's karate classes on Zoom, and you're trying to like have their schedule and have them attend to all these things, and then you have your own schedule. You got to cook, you got to clean, you got to work, and it can feel very overwhelming sometimes, right? So I like to go back when that all starts to feel like too much. I'm just like, okay, enough. Let's go back to something really simple that I have to do anyways. Again, building it into what we're already doing anyways. What do we have to do anyways today that I can make an enjoyable moment between me and my child, right? Berak, can they see us at the same time?
No, they don't.
Okay. Well, maybe you could say something. And
let me do that. You have to speak. So as Fairouz was saying, what we have to do anyways every day, I brought in this book, and we'll talk about this stuff in a second. Yeah.
What am I doing anyways that I can invite my child into, that we can do together, that's actually going to help our mental health, that's going to help our spirituality, that's going to help our relationship as parent and child, and that's going to help our community. What's one thing we have to do anyways every day that we can tie into all those things? Anybody know?
Ooh, me.
Salah. What's that?
Salah.
Totally. We have to do that anyways. So, and here's the thing, right?
Before you continue, sister, just for our audiences, you can please, in Facebook as well as Instagram, please engage, ask questions, and also answer the questions that we are asking, and then I will read them out to the sister. So please do think of what else that you have to do daily. So I threw in Salah. And while you're answering that, let's see how.
Yeah, give us more, and we'll talk about how to strengthen that activity with our child. I love that, Berak. So yeah, keep giving us more. So okay, so prayers. Vahar Asr, I'm gonna say, hey Zaina, why don't you come pray with me? And then we're gonna have this little treat after we pray. You're gonna do wudu. You're maybe gonna put on a little bit of perfume for yourself, for your child. Again, that's all activating different senses, right? You're going to pray together. That's going to make you feel like a really good parent because you're doing some great role modeling for your child. Your child is going to feel good. And at the end of that prayer, ask your child to think before they go into sujood, what are 3 things they want to give thanks for to Allah today when they go into sujood? And what are 3 things that they wish for other people? So this is the community part, right? 3 things they wish for other people today, and then as many wishes for themselves as they want. And when they go into sujood, you can repeat it for them so they remember. You can give them lots of hugs and cuddles, in between the prayers while you're reciting dua. And they love that, right? Like they thrive. You pat their head, you tell them good job, you hear which dua they can recite, how can they contribute. And then once that's done, enjoy a treat with them. And if that's all you do in a day, that's the only activity you do in a day, let me tell you, you've done a great job. It's okay. It's okay if they didn't go to several Zoom workshops, and it's okay. That you didn't write a whole book about their nightmares with them. That's okay. It's totally okay.
Very ambitious. And I think it's an important point for us to realize as well. We're being bombarded by so much right now, what we should do and not do out there, right? And the idea of productivity as well. And I don't really believe in that right now. And I've seen this with a lot of my colleagues in this area as well, is not to allow the pressure of having to be productive right now to be something that we have to do. We are in a collective global trauma, so to speak. And I'm trying not to label it as a scary thing right now, but as a realistic thing. We are experiencing some kind of global trauma crisis that we've never experienced before. We're getting through it. We're trying to get through it. This is not a productivity competition to try and do everything to compete with other people, but to also take advantage of the time that how to deal and cope with it as well. So it's really important.
Berak, so what happens though if, when I'm on my social media, I'm seeing this amazing output from other people, and I'm saying to myself, what is wrong with me that I can't do it? what is wrong with me that I can't, host a story time? And what's wrong with me that I don't have this Ramadan Advent calendar? And that I didn't bake this crazy looking dessert. And like, when I'm looking at that, when we're looking at other people's social media, sometimes we're not feeling positive when we see that stuff. Can you tell me, like?
So I'm going to tell you, as a hardcore therapist, and tough love, a lot of love, but tough. And this is something I would tell my clients any day before the pandemic. Stop comparing yourself to others. You are your own beautiful entity inside and out, as you are, with your strengths and the things that you got to build on and work on and improve. Absolutely. We all have strengths, and I don't like saying weaknesses, things to improve on. And to be aware of that you are an individual with your own universe within you, as Imam Ali says, that we need to reflect upon in order to be aware, right? So comparing yourself constantly, and we see this in research done on social media and mental health, that when you compare yourself, and the more you use social media like that, and you allow it to get to your head, the more depressed you're going to be and anxious when comparing yourself like that. I can tell you from face to face with the clients that I have, the ones that engage in social media in an unhealthy way of constantly comparing themselves, putting posts up of showing themselves to be happy when they're actually not, that of course is going to impact you. So let's apply this pre-pandemic, during pandemic. Nothing's changed. In fact, it'll probably make you feel worse that you're constantly comparing yourself to the so-called, go-getters and productivity go-getters out there. Sure, we're sharing meals. I'm the first one to do that because I'm actually enjoying cooking something healthy rather than rush to get out the door to get to work. I'm doing it in a mindful, hopefully healthy way as well. Even though sometimes I've done some crazy looking desserts, but I use all healthy ingredients, inshallah. And the idea here is to be inspired by each other, not to feel bad when you look at what other people are doing. Get ideas, inspire. But what about what you said? The person that you're trying to do all this and you still don't feel bad. I can't tell you stop feeling bad. It's not going to work like that. I can't tell you stop comparing yourself. It's not going to work like that. It has to do with a lot of inner work here as well, in terms of understanding that you are your own entity. You truly are. And when you compare yourself to others like that, it's not going to go anywhere, right? So it's time to set the boundaries here, so to speak, right? And not to get emotionally engaged when you do see these types of things and say, what is wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. Nothing wrong with you. You are you, and there's a lot of things that you can choose to work on, absolutely. But when we start comparing ourselves like that, don't also forget that a lot of things that are out there on social media are not truly as they are. It reminds me of that picture that was circulating around years ago, and it stays in my mind till now, of the bridal couple that, looking happy supposedly next to each other side by side. You see the front of it, the bride and the groom, but then behind the scenes you see the man grabbing onto the arm of the woman and it's bruised. And this is the reality of that. So we see a lot of that in social media as well. People, what they show out there is not truly, in fact, what's happening in their lives. And perhaps this is their attempt at trying to show that they're okay or trying to attain happiness. But we also know it's short-lived and it's not authentic.
And I love that we're talking about this, because what I'm also hearing you say is watch out for your perspective of what you're taking in, right?
Yeah.
What we know is that the same trigger, like the same event, can be stressful for one person and not stressful for another. Yeah. So for example, my friend makes a cake and I see it on their social media. I could say, oh my God, what a great cake. Send me the recipe. I'd love to try this tomorrow. But I could also say, oh my God, how did they get that done? Oh my God. I'll never be able to make a cake like that. It's terrible. Like, what's wrong with me that I can't make that cake? So I think what we also need to do is challenge our perspectives sometimes, because I think our perspectives just with our parenting, with our children, I feel like that is an awesome place where we can actually create some change. And when you see yourself having that perspective that's actually leading yourself to some negative feelings, say to yourself, say stop.
Yes.
And say, how can I think about this in a way that's actually going to be healthy for me and that's going to be motivating and inspiring? and say, mashallah, like the fact that, Fatima had energy to make that cake, that is amazing. And inshallah, I will have the energy tomorrow or next week to make that cake. Or you can message Fatima and be like, drop some cake off for me, please, because I would love to try it.
I really want some of your cake. Can you please drop it off? I love how you said that, Fairouz. That positive energy, like mashallah that she did that. This reminds me exactly of the prophetic tradition. Tafa'alu bil khair tajidu, propagate, put that positivity outward, you will get it. Fatima, can I have some of that cake? You will get that cake. You will get that cake, inshallah. But it truly is about that. And this is something we were talking about last night with the Sheikh in terms of how do we create and maintain positivity during this time when there's so much negativity. And I would say pre-pandemic, we were already asking those type of questions. Can we be positive in a world where we see so much negative? And so let's take this a step further in our talk today. How do we create that in line with what we've been talking about here? So we talked about Salah and how we can incorporate it from a religious parenting community, mental health perspective. I didn't get much examples here from anybody else, but they're woohooing what we're saying here, which is great. What could be another example?
Before we go to another example, Berak, can I jump in?
Go for it.
So what we know is that we're trying to develop our resilience to get through this time where none of us is in our comfort zone right now, right? And so we're being tested, we're being tried, but this is a great opportunity for us to develop some resilience. And a lot of us have resilience already because everybody I know in my life has gone through something difficult. And most of the people I know have really, alhamdulillah, grown from that and grown stronger from it. And so what we know, though, is that our mindset is a huge factor in, it's a critical role in determining our resilience more than any other. And we have control over the mindset that we choose to have on a given day. We can stop ourselves, we can change our perspective, we can challenge it, and we can say things to ourselves like, I am capable. And you know what? Today I wasn't feeling great, but I still prayed Salah with my child. Didn't bake the cake, but I prayed Salah. You know what? Today I woke up and I was grumpy, but I changed out of my pajamas and I took a shower. And you know what? I think focusing on what you've been able to accomplish in a given day, saying to yourself that we're in this together, remembering that there are people here like me and Berak who think you are capable. We want you to know you are capable. You're already doing so much. You're here, mashallah, Remember these things, repeat them to yourselves, say these positive things. Again, we can layer in the spirituality, right? You can be talking to God. You can say, God, I'm trying my best, increase my energy. Oh Allah, I did this, please accept it today. And inshallah, give me the energy to do even more tomorrow. I think it's huge. I think we need to acknowledge any little thing that we've been able to accomplish on a given day.
Honestly, just getting out of bed sometimes is an accomplishment, especially when we're dealing with clients who are dealing, let's say, with depression. We celebrate that as an accomplishment. You got out of bed. When we have a client telling us, I can't get out of bed, I can't shower, I stay 12 hours in bed and then I get up to go have an energy drink, and so getting out of bed at this point, starting the day like that, is a wonderful start. And Fairouz, you and I were discussing this earlier. It's not about how much you get done in terms of quantity. Truly, truly, it is about quality. When you've done that salah with your child together, and we have the opportunity now to actually do that. I love the weekends where I can do that with my daughter. Now I have that during the workday. I barely have time during the workday to pray by myself. Alhamdulillah, I get that in now. And we do that. It's so cute, by the way, when we see them in their salah outfits and doing tasbih and encouraging them to say dua al-hujjah and all of that, and saying, I'm so proud of you, I love you. These are beautiful moments that we can create during this time. And we're throwing out all these books and I'm excited to show these off because I got these books, or I got them as gifts, and we don't have time to actually sit down and do them, read them, or do I'm one of those, Fairouz. I got the Advent calendar delivered to my door. I did the Ramadan Advent calendar. And I have to give a shout out to my friend Shawana, who's part of the Ottawa Muslim Community Services. It's the new social services for Muslims in Ottawa. And so this was part of the activities that they had to give out in a fundraiser, which they raised to help through their organization. But I did get this, and let's see how on it Jasmine and I are going to be when we actually do it. My point being here is we can have all these things here. Are we actually going to do them? Does it truly matter if we get this done? Or is it truly that activity of sitting together during salah time and going through the gratitude, the mindfulness that you do after leaving the prayer mat and going on with the rest of the day? How fulfilled are we going to be feeling at that point?
That's it. I love that. That's beautiful. And it's about quality, and that is what your child is going to remember. And if there's a treat after and you guys are enjoying it together, then great. That moment before bed where you're checking in with your child and you're saying, my highlight today was watching you pray. My highlight today was that you made dua for your madrasa teacher. I totally forgot that her foot was hurting, but you remembered. That is so amazing that you remember that. That was my highlight of the day. What was your highlight of the day? And it's those small moments, those traditions that are going to make us feel good right now.
And it's funny, as you're saying that, I remember some of my friends who I will not name their names, but they know who they are, where at the end of the day, this is again the cultural, I think not even cultural, just most parents at the end of the day when they're so exhausted, perhaps even during the pandemic, not just pre, is at the end of the day, they're like, trekini in ibri, as they say in Lebanese, leave me alone, may the grave cover you. It's such a bad saying, but it's an expression.
What? Can you repeat that? I have never heard this in my life.
I have shocked my Khoja friend here. It's an expression used in Lebanese, like "Ta'burni," may you cover the grave of me, like may I die before you, I'll give my life for you.
That is like another level of dramatic.
In Lebanese, yeah. In Iraqi, we say fidwa aruh lik, fidwa aruh, like may I be a fidat for you, like qurban for you. It's very expressive in Arabic, right? So I've heard some of my friends, parents, in ibri, hil anni, like leave me alone, just go to sleep, like leave me alone. And as you're saying, sorry, I have to be real here. Like when you're saying at the end of the day, what was your highlight of the day? I just had a picture of my friend saying like, get lost, like leave me alone.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you, I'm one of those parents who puts my kids to bed as early as possible. And that's why I have, the patience to kind of do that with them. And I know once they're down, guess what? It's mommy time. So, and self-care is super important, right? So, hold maybe telling them that you wish you were, I don't know, buried by them. maybe hold that just a little bit. Maybe you can switch that to
let's talk about what was your
maybe be in Jannah together someday. Why can't that be more positive?
Obrini, yeah. Obrini is like, may I sacrifice my life for you. That's an expression of giving love. But then it's like in Ibri, it's like, may you But yeah, I have to be honest, I've heard some parents say stuff like that at the end of the day when they're just wiped out and exhausted. And I think this comes with emotional regulation as well. But I also think if the child is still sticking on to you like that, there's something there. They need something. They want something. And so this is something that's so challenging. We have to put our needs aside and attend to this child's needs, because again and again, I repeat this impacts a child's development when we cannot be there for them, and the trust that they put in us in terms of helping them when their needs are not met like that. This can create a lot of mental health issues later on in their lives, and I can attest to that working with the young adult population. Yeah,
for sure. We want to make sure we're there for them. We want to make sure the messages we send are as positive as possible. We own our mistakes. We say, hey, tomorrow's a new day. We're going to get through it together. And you know what? Today we did the best we could. And inshallah, tomorrow we will do the best we can again.
Alhamdulillah. I have a very detailed question here off of YouTube. It says, to avoid conflict, I stop talking instead of saying negative things to my spouse. That stresses my teen. He wants me to keep things normal with my dad by talking as if nothing happened. How do I keep it normal when I'm not feeling connected? I was doing well talking to my child till he was 12. But now at 15, he feels I don't listen well. So he gets very upset the moment I start talking to him.
Can you repeat? Can you say that again?
So there's two, it's from the same person, two questions. So let's repeat again. So to avoid conflict, I stop talking instead of saying negative things to my spouse. This stresses my teen. He wants me to keep things normal with my dad by talking as if nothing happened. How do I
With
keep
the dad or with the spouse?
So the spouses,
Yeah.
mom gets upset with dad.
Yeah.
To avoid conflict, she doesn't say anything negative to the spouse. This stresses out her teen. Her
Yep.
teen wants things to keep normal with dad by talking, because she keeps quiet, as if nothing happened. So mom is asking here, how do I keep it normal when I'm not feeling connected to dad?
That is an amazing question.
It is.
That is an amazing question. I'd be curious about a couple of things. I'd be curious about the state of the relationship prior to COVID.
Yes.
What the stressors might have been before that, and how communication was before that. You know, I think children feel a lot for their mothers. I think they feel very stressed out when they see like an injustice in the parent relationship, and when they see that injustice is not being what's that word, dealt with.
Yes.
Dealt with, right? We want to look at our communication. So what I love here is that the sister is not being aggressive back.
Yes.
To try to not be aggressive, she's becoming passive.
Passive aggressive in a way.
I don't know if it's passive aggressive, because I guess if she's giving the cold shoulder and is not talking then anymore, ignoring, then maybe that's becoming passive aggression, maybe. Right. But where can we find a moment of where this mom can be a little bit assertive and role model to this child what assertive looks like in a healthy way? And, assertive is one of those hard things, especially for us as women, to practice, because often when we're trying to be assertive, we get labeled with other words.
I'm not going to say it. Aggressive.
Just going to put that out there. Yeah. But sometimes when you're in that heat of the moment with your spouse, sometimes not saying anything and saying, you know what, if I keep talking right now, this is going to go nowhere good. This is not going to go anywhere good. But we need to figure this out. Why does this keep happening to us? I don't think anybody in a relationship wants to be in a bad relationship. Why would we do that? Yeah. What's that?
It's funny you say that. I came across something the other day, and something fascinating to explore. So if you just want to hold your thought there while I interject, sorry. And it's about how we choose unhealthy relationships as a continuous pattern of what we've lost in our childhood, of what within our parents' relationships. So whatever your relationship with your father, or male to a mother, interestingly enough, this trauma comes out later on in what we find familiar in past relationships. If we are familiar with aggression, if we are familiar with verbal abuse or different kinds of abuses, funny enough, we tend to gravitate towards what is familiar. Not because we want to be in an unhealthy relationship, but subhanAllah, even trauma, even negativity is familiar. So we are drawn to that, and we stick to that. And then the whole cycle of that unhealthy relationship. I found that fascinating, because I do see that in clients, and it's interesting how we do that. And it's almost the, I guess the definition as we hear of insanity is trying over and over again and expecting different results. So it's fascinating how, subhanAllah, our human interactions within our parents or past relationships, how we seek the familiarity, even if it's not healthy or not good. Surprisingly, people who are in relationships with wonderful people are quite shocked and surprised when their partners are kind, compassionate, and the way you're supposed to be in a relationship. They don't know how to interact with this kindness in what a healthy relationship should be, because they're so used to that negativity. Sorry, that was just something that what you said reminded me of. And I think we experience that a lot.
Totally. It's amazing, these constellations in our life. So many things are connected in our lives, whether we are recreating or whether we are whether we are reacting and working really hard not to recreate, right? And how we mindfully do that. But I think this mom can acknowledge that with this teen. I think there's some work to be done with the spousal relationship for sure. And inshallah, maybe her and her spouse, or maybe even just her. Sometimes when one person in a relationship starts getting healthy and reaches out and starts, finding out how they want to say what they want to say back in a way that is assertive, really kind of working on that, working through that with somebody you trust. If the spouse can be brought into it, great. But I think, going to your teen and just being very authentic and being like, you know what? It must be really hard for you to see.
Yes, validating goes a long way.
Yeah, right? I can't imagine how painful that must be. And no wonder you feel like communication is not, where it should be. And no wonder you don't want to talk, right? What can we do? What can we do? How do we make this better? I think teenagers have a lot of ideas. I feel like teenage boys often too, they blow my mind sometimes with the ideas they have. And I think just really addressing this with the child and saying, yes, my relationship with your dad is not ideal right now. Inshallah, we're going to work on it. I would build some hope into that conversation as well. I think hope is important. And say, this must be really tough for you. What can we do to make this easier for you? What can I do? I'm trying to get help for myself on this. Maybe, inshallah, we'll get help, me and your dad, or we'll talk about it. But in the meantime, how do I help you cope with this? Or do you need somebody to talk to? And then again, offer them some resources, some supports. And inshallah, that way the child feels like you're acknowledging what's really going on. Right?
Yeah, like you're saying that acknowledgement. And it's, I think, not just with children, just with spouses, siblings, relationships, colleagues, anywhere. That acknowledgement is so empowering. You're telling the other person, I am listening to you. I care. I am here. I'm not judging you. I am accepting what you are saying, even if I don't like it. You don't have to like it. It's just accepting it without judgment. Talking about haram police, that the haram police can go and cause a lot of damage with the disapproving looks and the judgment. So really being able to create that safety of, I accept what you're saying. This is your feelings, and it's okay to have these feelings. Let's work on them. What do you need? Saying things like that can go a long way to the person struggling. Absolutely.
Yeah. What was the second part of the question?
I almost forgot about that. The second part, so it's different. It says, I was doing well talking to my child till he was 12, but now at 16, he feels I don't listen well. So he gets very upset the moment I start talking to him. I've actually heard this from people as well, that they had good relations and connections with their child, but then when they hit a certain age point, perhaps hormones kicked in. 16 sounds like the right about age for young men. Yeah.
Totally. And that was it. That was where my mind first went, this is hormones. This is a lot of high emotion, high intensity of emotion. I'm curious if somebody could say to their child in that case, when things are neutral, say, remember how it was when you were 12? I really miss that connection that we used to have. And I'd really like to have it again. How can we do it?
Yes.
How can we do it? So often people and families already have the answers themselves. Yeah. We just need to ask the right questions, right? Show your child you genuinely want that connection. Say, I want to talk to you. And you know what? If that means you're going to give me a list of things that we're not going to talk about, because maybe, and moms, we do this, right? Sometimes we're bringing up topics that are actually kind of frustrating or annoying, right, to our teenage children. And maybe those topics could be off the table sometimes. Sometimes.
Not all the time.
Not all the time. Yeah. Not all the time. But there are times where, again, I go back to, finding out what your child at 16 is interested in. What are they interested in? And you get interested in whatever they're interested in, and then talk to them about what they're interested in. And then you see, oh my God, they don't stop talking then. And then you're going to do a little bit of what Berak's mom used to do. And you're going to do a lot of, that's so cool. Wow.
It worked. It worked with my mom till now. And I always bring this up whenever I do workshops with parents and their children. Till now, I tell my mom everything, except of course what's confidential. But it's because she created that trust within me and her and our relationship very young, that I felt safe sharing with her everything that we go through as children, and we develop, and then hormones kick in, and we notice the opposite gender, and that becomes really frowned upon within our communities. It's haram, you cannot do this, you cannot do that, you can't say, you can't even breathe the air around the opposite gender, so to speak. But that doesn't create, that's not healthy. That's probably another topic to discuss, but also sexual education with our children, and how to teach it to them in a healthy way, especially with the regulations and the programs that we have in schools these days. But being able to create that safety where you can talk about such things with your parents and being guided by them in a healthy way. And if you don't know what to say, please do talk to the experts. Please do talk to people who've gone through it, that have done well with their kids, and they have that healthy relationship. Because honestly, as parents, we're not born with an ingrained manual into our heads how to do certain things, even though we do have instinct. Absolutely, we have that fitra and instinct. However, at the same time, there are things that we have to learn along the way, including the generation that we are growing up in. So finding that guidance and going out to people who are experts, so to speak, in the field, who've gone through it before. And Fairouz and I can attest that, you know what, we're still learning parents. We may have studied this, we may have seen it with our clients, but we are still learning as we're applying this with our own children. And inshallah, you know, what we're doing is working. We'll see when they hit age 15, 16, how that's going to work. It's working so far, alhamdulillah.
This is why I keep Berak in my life, because there's going to come a time I'm going to really need her.
Oh, girl, I'm here for you. Inshallah, you're here for me too.
Oh, of course, of course. But, you know, I want to go back to the sister's question, and I want to say that, you know, it is really upsetting for teens and for children when the relationship between their caregivers is not healthy. It's really, really disturbing and really upsetting. And sometimes the reaction they have to that is to want to be distant from the parents. It's pretty normal. Actually, we see that pretty regularly, Berak. I don't know, would you say the same?
Yeah, it's pretty common to have these types of relationships. Again, I see that when parents come in and say, can you please talk to my child about praying more, getting back to salah? They've left their religion. That breaks my heart when I see things like that. Obviously, we're not scholars to be able to answer it from a fiqh, from a religious point of view, but I look at it from a wellness perspective, a mental health, because right away, you and I, when we hear things like that, we think, what was a relationship like before growing up? What is the atmosphere in the home? What kind of style of parenting do you have with your child? What is your relationship with your child to do this? But I recall a father talking to me about that once, and he's got back into religion, so to speak. And he said, I want my daughter. She's not. And it makes me sad. At the same time, I look at it from a psychological perspective with these questions. And so you want to give hope to the parent, but at the same time, you have to be realistic as well. Our children are going to find their own journey. And we know this through how the Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam taught us in terms of the division of the three, in terms of child development. And we see this in a lot of modern psych theories as well, in terms of parenting and whatnot. And it's beautiful how we're taught from the age of 0 to 7 to be a slave to your child. I love how the Sheikh last night said, during the daytime, I am the humble slave of my 2-year-old, and that's the epitome of what that should be during that time frame. Of course, still guidance and routine and structure for a child. And then from the age of 8 to 14, what kind of relationship do you have with your child when you are the master, so to speak, over your child? And also understanding, what does it mean to be a master from the Islamic perspective, right? And then being your friend, their child rather, being a friend to your child from the age of 15 to 21 and whatnot. You have a certain role to play in all three of these parts from an Islamic perspective of child development. But then you also have to understand also what it says at the end of that hadith, which is so beautiful. You do your best, so to speak. The rest is up to God and that child. It is their journey. It is their journey. You give them the love, the foundation, but in the end, they are going to choose to wear the hijab or not, to pray or not, to follow our Islamic principles or not, as long as you have shown them in a way of love. Hajj Hassanin Rajab Ali really talks about that. And I've heard a few lectures where he spoke about that. And when I spoke with him last week, the week before, we did a live, and we touched upon that, and I found it so empowering again to hear this, is how are we raising our children? Is it with love or fear? And the joke that always comes to mind for me when I hear fear and religion is of the mother bursting into the room saying, wake up, there's a fire. And the kids are like, where? In Jahannam if you don't get up and pray. And I think that's the epitome of sometimes of how we teach our children faith and religion and Islam, any faith really. When you're talking about hell and you're talking about fear and anger and an angry God, how are you impacting your child? You were not creating the love of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in your children's hearts. Of course, they're going to steer away from religion. If you were a hypocrite, if you were telling them get up and pray and you're still on your phone or watching TV or doing something that's not important, is it Allahu Akbar that time, or is it Telephone Akbar at that time? What is greater than God in that moment, right? So I find it truly is a lifestyle for us in terms of how we teach our children in that journey, because there comes an age where they are going to go onto their own journey alone. What have we taught them on that path they're going to take, whether it's psychological, spiritual, religious, educational? It is a huge responsibility, but at the same time, we cannot control them after that age. And even this is not about control, by the way. They are an amana given to us, just like our bodies or minds, right? It's a gift to us. I forget the word amana. Trust. Thank you. Bless you. A trust given to us. How do you take care of this trust that is given to you? Are you going to hurt them? Are you going to influence them in a negative way? So it's all how we choose to look at it. I know a lot of people get married because they're supposed to. You're supposed to have children and you're supposed to, and mindlessly go through life like that. But I think it's about bringing that conscious awareness and that mindfulness every day and living in the moment, because these moments are going to go by like that. We're going to wish for the glitter on our face. We're going to wish for the stickers on the walls and on the floors. I read this somewhere a few years ago when I'm trying to be that perfect parent of everything has to be in order and clean. And I read this article, which just stopped me in my tracks. It was just all about mindfulness and saying, you know what? You're not going to hear those pit patter in the morning anymore in the house of the steps and their feet. You're not going to see those stickers on the floor. And I deliberately left those stickers, and it's okay to have that mess, because that's not going to be there for long when they take their own journey and their own path. Sorry, I spoke a lot here there.
It was beautiful though. It was really well done, mashallah. And you're right. Again, it's perspective, right? Can we enjoy our children where they're at while we have them where they are? What's the perspective we're going to take? Yes, it's challenging, and yes, it can be really hard. But what's the narrative we're going to give that, right? And I really have to thank that sister for that question, because it takes a lot of courage to put that out there. And inshallah, I think you've done great. You're acknowledging that there is an issue and you're looking for some answers. In fact, all the questions we've had today are, mashallah, really on point. So thank you to everybody who put themselves out there like that and gave us an opportunity to kind of just talk about it.
Absolutely. And thank you so much, sister. Thank you for everybody who was involved, whether it's online and Instagram and Insta Ahlul Bayt, through the YouTube channel and Facebook. Alhamdulillah, I'm going back and forth with all of these groups to see. People are asking if they can see the session later. Absolutely. You can just go to, I can't speak properly anymore, the Muslim Counsellor YouTube. You can find these there as well as on Facebook. And I wanted to give a shout out to Bronze Digital, who have been designing and patiently working with me and my other colleagues on the posters. And if ever you guys need any digital work, please check them out. They're from our community. I always love supporting amazing people within our community. So shout out to Bronze Digital. A huge shout out to the brother who has been coordinating and being able to live stream through Insta Ahlul Bayt, through YouTube, as well as Facebook and Zoom. So we got 4 social media platforms here where we're getting all of this coordinated. It's wonderful, mashallah. So thank you so much, brother, for helping us with that. And has there anybody else? Have I forgotten? Oh yes, I wanted to bring up, inshallah, for tomorrow, we'll be speaking with one of our favorite therapists, Sister Anisa Diab. She's back on with us tomorrow, and absolutely love her. Like I love my sister Fairouz here. And inshallah, we'll be talking about how to deal with anxiety and depression, because this is something we hear again and again and again. So for those of you who ask anxiety questions, I did not ignore. Please come back tomorrow, and then inshallah we'll talk about that. And on Monday, we're going to be delving into a deeper and challenging topic, but much needed to be talked about again during these days, which is domestic violence, abuse, and survival, with Lisa Vogel, who is an advocate for this and a survivor. I'm really looking forward to speaking with her. She's a good friend as well. I got a chance to meet her last year when I came to Orlando, and she's just a wonderful human being. Inshallah, we'll be talking with her about that. So just to wrap up, alhamdulillah, we got through all of our questions. I don't think I did that last night. We got so distracted by the glitter and turban.
There was a lot of turban talk, wasn't there?
Indeed there was. And now there's been a lot of requests for turban wars. Who wears it best? Who wears it best and how to wear the turban. So besides that, alhamdulillah, we had a really lively discussion last night. And so Fairouz, inshallah, we're going to end off with another stress reduction activity, and we're going to wrap up with some questions that you had for me this time, I believe.
Okay, so guys, this is another one of my favorites. And what I'm going to invite you to do, Berak, you know what? Move that screen back. Come on, stand up. Come on. Right. I'm not going to be the only person who's demonstrating this.
All right, let's do it. I'm
going to do this if you guys aren't all going to, be in this with me.
You're going to see the rest of my place here. All right, that's all right. All right, I'm standing up.
Please stand up. And what I want you to do is I want you to get into what I'm going to call a power pose. So feet slightly spread apart, shoulders back, hands on your hips. And you're going to hold this for 2 minutes. I'm going to look at my clock here. Hey, Google, set a timer for 2 minutes.
Sure,
okay,
2 minutes.
So we've got a 2-minute timer going, and that's exactly what you're going to do when you want to try this out. This technique comes to you from a researcher named Amy Cuddy. She's got a TED Talk about power posing. It's amazing. You'll learn more about the research. But in a nutshell, when we are feeling worried or stressed or nervous, in our brains, there's a release of a stress chemical. Berak, do you know which one?
Cortisol.
Cortisol. Yes. Good job. See?
Yeah. Do I get a cookie?
That's somebody who, oh yeah, I'm throwing candy at you right now, or cookies.
Thank you. Got it.
I'll drop some off for you, inshallah, next time I make some.
Thank you so much.
So your brain releases a lot of cortisol. And what happens is the cortisol level goes up, and then there's another hormone that's related to confidence and self-esteem. Starts with a T. Berak, do you know which one?
Testosterone.
Testosterone. Very good. She didn't even, I'm putting her on the spot, guys, but mashallah, she's like acing it. So the cortisol goes up and the testosterone goes down by holding this kind of a power pose. So whether it's this or like, yay, I just won a race, for 2 minutes, it's been scientifically proven to change those levels. Cortisol comes down and the testosterone goes up. You can do this. You can tell your kids that before a test, if they're very, very nervous, they can sit back in their chair, open up their body, force their body to be open and powerful like a boss, hold it for 2 minutes. And this was measured through people's saliva. They tested it. And those levels, those hormone levels, are going to change in the opposite direction. And all of a sudden, you're going to be feeling way more self-confident, way more like, I got this, I can handle this, I know what I'm going to say. It works. I use it myself. And when the timer goes, let's see how much time we have left. Oh, there you go. We did it. We did it.
Sister, as we're doing this, it reminds me again of the prophetic tradition where we are told when you are angry or frustrated, whatever emotion, negative emotion, if you are standing up, what do? Sit down. If you're sitting down, stand up or lay down or move or change rooms. SubhanAllah, 1400 years ago, we had this. And modern psychology research is showing that it's because of the hormone levels. Testosterone goes up and cortisol goes down. Sorry, the opposite when you are stressed. So when doing this exercise balances it out. And subhanallah, again, it's from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam. Can we have a salawat? Allahumma salli ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad wa ajil farajahum. I just love when I come across anything that is psych-based and modern psychological research, that you see the roots of it from our Islamic traditions. It just lights me up. I just get even more delighted and excited. And thank you so much for showing that. That's, again, it's from our Islamic roots, subhanAllah.
Amazing. Anytime. We have like so many more tools. There's so many more coping strategies and tools out there. I know you can look at the Psychology Foundation of Canada. They have a whole bunch of, they have toolkits and stuff like that. You know, if you go out looking for this stuff, it's all over the place on Pinterest. So it doesn't have to end here, but those are 3 very basic ones. If you'll remember, we did cookie breathing, we did the cloud push away, and then we just did power posing. So inshallah, that's 3 things, 3 tangible things you take away from this conversation today. And regardless of the cultural background we come from, nothing stops us from putting that into our lives right now.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So sister, your turn. Questions.
Oh, okay. Well, Sister Berak, what has been the highlight of all these interviews you've been doing? Because mashallah, you have done like quite a few since COVID began. And I'm curious what, if you could pick a moment or 2 that really stand out for you.
I have to be honest and say that every single one has its own uniqueness. So it's like asking a mother, which of the children do you love the most? What does mama say? All of you.
No, mom says you to the one she's sitting in front of.
So I absolutely adore working with you, Fairouz.
Oh, just kidding. I'm kidding. I just want to, like, mashallah, have you collaborated with all of these individuals before, or is it something this new?
Every single one except Sister Marzia. I've fanned her for a long time. I've girl fanned her. I attended a majlis once and she was in there. I'm like, oh my God, that's Marzia Hassan. So I remember that. I hadn't worked with her before this. I have worked with brother Sheikh Fairouz a few years ago. We chatted, had lengthy chats about mental health, and he took that and developed a whole Muharram majlis program around mental health and Muharram, which was beautiful. Wow. Sister Anisa Diab has become a very close, good friend. Shout out to you, sister. We connected at the Ummah conference last year, and we've just been connected since then. And alhamdulillah, we had a live before and we're doing another one, and our daughters know each other. She also came all the way down to my daughter's taklif. What? All the way from New York. She drove down and came with her family and attended. That was so beautiful and special moment, because now her younger daughter is nowhere near the age of taklif, but wants to wear the hijab and cannot wait because she saw Jasmine wear the hijab. Sheikh Azhar, we actually were supposed to do a conference together. He was going to be one of our main speakers for the Serenity Conference in Ottawa in June. However, obviously we've had to postpone and cancel for now. So yeah, so we've connected before, and we're very passionate about mental health and Islam. And let's see, who else did we speak with? There's your lovely self. You and I go way back, and we're also working together in other projects. And Lisa, like I said, I've known, I met her last year and connected with her when she came out and publicly spoke about her domestic violence situation. I reached out to her and connected with her. And when I was heading to Orlando, she saw that I was coming. And so we connected. So I'm looking forward to that. So each and every one of these talks, I think, have been very insightful in terms of what we have been learning and connecting with. And there's been a bit of prep before. And I think we're learning as we're going along how to do it, whether it's the digital stuff or how to get the streaming going or getting cut off, but also prepping ahead of time. I love the questions that are coming in. So everybody who's watching, we do have questions still coming in for anxiety and depression for tomorrow, but as well for the domestic violence ones. And all the questions today, I'm so happy that we actually got through all of the questions. Last night with Sheikh Azhar, bless him, we did not get through the whole list of questions. You're talking about highlights. We got to talk about funny highlights. None of us can forget, of course, the glitter and the turban. That's got to be a highlight that all of us have enjoyed. For me today, the cookie, the cloud, and the power pose. That's something I can remember, and definitely that's a highlight for me. Yeah.
Who, if you could have anybody come on and do one of these with you, other than who you already have lined up, who is somebody that you would like to collaborate with you? I put this out there because I want you to like put this energy out into the world. And then inshallah, like I would love to see you collaborate with Brother Asad Jafri.
Oh,
So,
yes.
yeah.
Yes, Sayyid Jafar. He is boss.
Yeah.
He's
Mashallah.
boss.
Yeah.
He's boss. I actually worked with him last year, I believe, in Toronto, the year before. He's one of those boss sheikhs as my team, my Serenity team, and I call him boss sheikh. Bless him, mashallah. Okay, you know what? Let's try and get him.
Yeah. But who else? Who else would you want to do one of these with?
You know, I haven't thought that far ahead, but definitely Sister Zahra Al-Alawi. We're speaking. We did have a date set, but unfortunately her family situation right now requires a lot of dua, so it's very unpredictable. So Habibti Zahra, we're praying for you and your family and your father, inshallah. So please, my friends and family, pray for her, and inshallah we'll try and get her on. She wants to do it, but the time. So she's definitely somebody I'd love to get on. I'm just trying to think here because I haven't thought that far ahead actually. We definitely want to get you back on. Sheikh Azhar back on again. Sister Anisa again. I want to continue. I don't know. Anybody have suggestions? Give us suggestions. Who else? I'd like to get Brother Sheikh Jawad Shamali, inshallah.
Yes.
Perhaps. Yeah, from London.
Yeah.
Who else?
You know, maybe a marriage and family therapist too, because I know that there is there are questions related to domestic violence, but I think any relationship right now, there's some stressors, right? So maybe ones that are not maybe that intense on the spectrum, but somebody who can kind of, you know, and I'm thinking of Dr. Saeed, so maybe that would be great.
I knew. You're watching, brother, and I knew you were going to say that because I've actually been in talks with him.
Awesome.
Yes.
Awesome.
So I didn't want to say the names of people I'm in talks with.
Well, I thought if we put pressure on those people, then they're definitely going to say yes and show up, you know?
Yeah. Somebody mentioned Said Rizvi from Toronto.
Yep.
Inshallah. Yeah. Who else from our audience would like to see to have these types of in-depth discussions? And it could be anywhere from around the world, not just in EST time zone. We did get PST time zone in. So let's see who else we can get. It's a bit challenging in the time zone differences. I've gotten people from New Zealand and Australia who've reached out. They're like, would you be able to do a 4 a.m.? And I'm like, how about we make it 1 a.m. my time, 1 a.m. my time? That way I'm still eating and then we can have suhoor and then we can end it after.
You know what? That's totally doable in like Ramadan maybe.
Absolutely.
You know? Yeah.
All right. So we'll see whoever else. You can maybe send us suggestions of people and then we can figure out. And it's obviously around the topic. Yeah. So people asking questions, please ask questions that are related. I've got a question here. Is it haram to shave if it's required by your job?
Wow.
I can't answer that question. And it's not mental health related or children related. You can please, how I answer these questions is refer back to your marja or scholar. All right, I think
scholar, that's amazing. I think because you like just roll out with all this like Islamic philosophy, and it's quite beautiful, Berak, how you like.
I don't know how to take that. I don't want to misrepresent and give the wrong information out, right? So when people do come to absolutely with Islamic type questions, I do refer them on, and even if they come to with psych questions and mental health related, if it's not something I can answer, I always refer back to my colleagues. Yeah, which is the practice that we do anyways, right?
And I love that about you. That's authenticity. That's what I love. So keep it up, and Jazakallah, and inshallah you get the energy to keep on going, and all those people you want come on, and you know, I'll be watching.
Inshallah. Bless you, sister. Thank you for your energy as well. We've actually done 2 hours. MashaAllah. We've done 2 hours of this and we might get cut off Instagram right away. So let's close up. Thank you again for everybody, and du'as for all of the families that are impacted in any way, and du'as for all of our loved ones who are impacted again. Thank you very much, everybody. Inshallah, we'll see you tomorrow, same time, with Sister Anisa Diab on how to deal with anxiety. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.